Hey everyone, welcome again to Diversely Geek and the Diversely Me Foundation. And thank you so much for staying with us today. It's been a phenomenal day full of conversations, emotions, information, learning, just so much. And I am just so blessed to have met so many people. We are having our panel number 6, and that is about building healthy connections and community through our fandom passions and healing hobbies. And yes, I will finally define healing hobbies today. It's gonna happen, which Letitia's been waiting for me to do forever. So I am actually going to turn this panel to my lovely connective friend Letitia, who I had a long conversation about this in the past, and we kind of created this panel based on that conversation. Take it away, my love, and then intro all the good people.
Well, hi, everybody. We are super excited to present in this particular panel about healthy connections and community in fandom because when it comes to fandom, when it comes to engaging in this work, as much as we love watching our movies and reading our comics and playing our games, what we also love is connecting with each other. And it's such a huge part of the fandom experience. So we want to explore how that helps us personally, helps our self-concept, and also helps us have a better view of each other's cultures and communities. So I'm super excited to have this conversation. So first thing would love us to do is just give ourselves a short introduction. So I'm going to ask you to say your name and the organization that you represent. So starting with Wendell.
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Wendell Smith. I am also known by my moniker Scorp King Costuming. I'm the vice president of HBCU Con.
Awesome, thank you. And Jarvis?
I'm Jarvis Sheffield. I'm the creator of Black Science Fiction Society. I also am the track director for Dragon Con's diversity track. And during the day, I work as an educator at Historic Tennessee State University, where I am the coordinator of the media centers.
Ooh.
Fantastic. Nicole?
I'm a teacher in Florida, and I am the founder of Comics in the Classroom Florida.
Fantastic. I can't wait to hear more about that. Also being like an educator myself, so woot. And speaking of kids, Nico, what you got for us?
Cool. I'll take it. I'm Nico. You guys can find me at X's for Podcast, which is my 30-person roundtable X-Men and Marvel comics discussion 3 times a week. Snicked.
I'm sorry. The sound effects. It's beautiful. And last but definitely not least, Kelly.
I'm Kelly Harkins. I am also an educator, but I'm mostly here partially because of Dragon Con as well. I'm the director of the American Science Fiction and Fantasy Media Track, and I teach at Full Sail University, which is a very geeky school. And so get along in that aspect just as well.
Amazing.
Awesome.
You want me to tell people what I do for a living?
Yes, please share with the class.
So, well, I do run this lovely organization, CEO of Diversely Geek and now the Diversely Me Foundation. But for a living, my friends, I am a family practice and neurology and psychiatry nurse practitioner. And that is what I do for my day job.
All right.
Yes. And and I'm here, Letitia, host of the podcast Introspectional. And I'm really excited to, have this conversation with these lovely people. And like I said, we're going to start kind of talking about ourselves a little bit. So my first question for you all is, what do you think it means to engage in fandom as a whole? Like, is it a culture, a lifestyle, a hobby, or simply entertainment? Like, how would you define it?
I mean, I think it's like just about anything else where we have to have kind of like a transformational definition, right? Because I know that I engage with bat fandom in that when something happens, I get involved, and I'll go on Twitter and have too many opinions that I don't need to have. But like, I produce an X-Men show 2.5 hours a week, 2 or 3 times a week, and there's like 20 of us, and that's a good portion of my day every day when I'm not also an educator teaching. So hey, what's up, educators? But so I think you can be super engaged in a fandom like it's all you are, or you can be engaged in a fandom like it's like a passing fancy. And I think you've got that option. I think I have a problem, and I think, it's okay to super engage in a fandom and also then just kind of engage in a fandom.
Just a wee bit. I mean, it's okay to have a problem, with your fandom. Because for me, I guess I'm like really I'm the only non-educator on this panel. Wow. I'm a government
You've
geek.
educated me so many times on so many panels and helped me to understand things 1,000 times.
That's because we've gotten to know each other. But the folks here don't know that I'm not an educator. I'm just some crazy dude in a Mets jersey right now. But
by the way, that's the reason you're here, because you're wearing a Mets jersey and I'm a Queens girl. Okay, just so you understand.
Queens in his house.
Bronx Bombers. Bronx. Sorry.
But speaking towards fandoms, it's actually all of those things that you named, because on a given fandom or on a given day, you can feel or interact in that fandom any one of those ways. Because I'm a big Harry Potter fan. I'm Hufflepuff down to the point where, I'm a 50-year-old man with the Hufflepuff, with a king size Hufflepuff stuck on comforter. And if you go in my car, you see my pillows and my other throws and my vinyl. But then on my car, you also see all of the other things that I'm fans of: Marvel, a little bit of DC. Very little bit of DC, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, of course. I mean, it all depends on that day or what you feel that day. You can wake up in the morning and be like, you know what? Today's a Star Wars day. I feel like doing nothing but Star Wars, from my underwear to my socks. And I'm going to sit there and watch all of the movies today. Well, not all of them. That'll be like a 2-day thing, but and I've done that.
I mean, it's like you do a Star Wars commitment or you do a Lord of the Rings commitment. Either way, you're stuck for a couple of hours.
That's a day, right? That's a day.
Throw some Narnia in there, okay?
MCU.
I mean, it's amazing how you can literally go from one fandom to another, and it really doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It all matters on how you feel about that fandom at that moment in time.
And what it does for you in that moment.
Exactly.
How it helps you.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think there's going to be all levels, and that's all okay, because some of us are more one thing than another, and it changes. I know for my track, I cover a lot of different things, so I find myself not being able to focus because I have to see a lot of different things. So that's just part of the deal. So whether I'm watching, MCU or Sweet Tooth or something else, or there's like, that's part of my job that I do for that. So it's great, but it also means I don't often get to deep dive as much as I sometimes would like to do. So
I think that it can be a spectrum. As an example, you were talking about watching the whole series. My wife and I just watched Blood and Bone from start to finish in 24 hours. And so you have
Shadow
people
and Bone or Blood and Bone?
Shadow and Bone. It's on
Yep.
Netflix.
Yep. I did.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, and so we do that frequently. We do that frequently. And with Black Science Fiction Society, I'm on there every day. And it's been, 13 years this year. And that's like the first thing I do in the morning and the last thing I do at night. Check the website and check the groups and things of that nature. And then you might want to flip it over to another extreme where with Dragon Con, you have people that walk around like we're normal throughout the rest of the year. But then Dragon Con, you may show up dressed up as Iron Man or Wonder Woman and just be 200% in that and up 24 hours a day. participate in those in the different fandoms.
100%. I
Mm,
think
yeah,
Nicole?
like,
I resemble that remark.
Nicole?
I think in a lot of ways it's a lifestyle because if you're involved in conventions and panels and talking to people about fandom, just in general, I think it becomes a lifestyle. It becomes your like waking moments. It becomes everything that you're interested in. And so, and it also becomes your family because I know with the week we've had here at my house that our con family has really come through for us, and just the prayers that come along with it and all the really positive things that come from that group of people have really become, you know, our life's blood to keep moving forward. And along with comics in the classroom as well, like it wouldn't even be a thing if it hadn't been for our con family. Like it wouldn't even be something that I was talking about. It would just be something that I hid away in my classroom and didn't want to share with anybody because we're hoarders. Teachers are hoarders. We hoard ideas. You know, we hoard ideas and we hoard materials and we hoard things. It's terrible.
Quotes.
But wonderful at the
Quotes
same time.
forever.
I call them resources, but that's okay.
I call them assimilated intellectual property. Whatever gets you through the day, it's fine.
Anybody who wants to help me move all of my resources would be greatly appreciated.
I think Kelly. Well,
I should have had this part recorded so my wife can understand why my workshop is the way it is.
Wait a minute. It is recorded. Lucky for you.
Yes.
It is.
All right.
No,
we need to hear that, people.
Jump in there.
I wanted to get everyone together really quick because Ian joined us. Hey.
Hi.
Hello.
Ian is my yin and yang. So he's the other part of my mental brain. And so therefore, when I'm a panelist, he gets to lead the mental health conversation side of it too. So
nowhere as good as you, but I try.
What we had asked was kind of what does it mean to engage in fandom? So is it a culture, lifestyle, a hobby, or simply entertainment? So
for a split second, I thought you said, is it a cult? And I was like, what?
Sometimes.
I know, and that was going to be my answer. I'm like, kinda? No, I do think it definitely is a family. At least that's strongly how I feel personally. For me, it all started like when I went to my first LeakyCon and I met everyone, including Nisha. Like it just, boom, family. I instantly felt safe and accepted, and someone who, like, I have pretty manageable anxiety, but back then it was pretty bad. To be in a large group, like a humongous group of like, I don't know, thousands of people, like Nisha, like at least 2,000, I don't know, but and feel completely comfortable, like that was very new to me.
And I mean, I think that's, and I know we talked about this kind of in our pre-show when we were preparing, but I think that's also one of the kind of ironic things about cons, just in general, because they tend to attract people who in their everyday lives are often, you know, introverted or not very
You're like, I want to be alone. And it's like, we're alone together. Yay.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And when it's like, now it's time for all of us coming to people. They're like, my people, they're here. This is going to, and then also one thing I think that happens is, just because of the collection of personalities that are there, if something is overwhelming, if something is like, oh my God, I need a breather, I can't take it, there are other people like that in your vicinity who would have similar experiences. So you having a moment is not unusual.
No. Yep.
You know, which is something you don't necessarily find outside of like that kind of nerdy space.
And if anything, it's kind of the opposite. It's usual. It's like the norm. Like, oh, you're having a moment, girl. I had mine like an hour ago, so go ahead.
Right.
And I do think though that it 100%. I'm so sorry I cut someone off. I apologize. I was going to say, I think that it absolutely does exists outside of the traditional or conventional con space, because we also have to remember there are a myriad of convention types out there, right? There's beauty, there's spa, there's a bunch of different types of wellness. There's a bunch of what I mean, hello, I'm in medicine, right? I have neurology to go to, I have mental health to go to, I have family practice to go to. And every one of them, we create this beautiful linkage of healthy connections based on us having these sympathetic moments where we connect on something that's healing to us. And so I think that it's not just, it is lifestyle in some cases, but when it's this inclusive and this connective, this is family. So I believe it can traverse, you know. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all good. So
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to move on to my next question.
I had a question, but keep going. Oh, we're doing great. Okay, so
we are. You say words.
Like with family and you know, using fandom to connect. Does anyone remember like the first person they really shared that connection with? Like be it another like biological family member or a friend that you like shared your fandom with and it kind of made you that much closer?
Well, I mean, it's kind of an interesting story because my father raised me on comics. Like I was going to conventions in church basements when I was 5 years old, tripping over Denny O'Neil's suitcase. Like, so I have very specific memories of being like the little kid at the convention with my dad, like walking me around and my arm up. And I'm just like, I'm going to touch everything. And no, obviously don't do that. So I kind of have an unusual, like to me, fandom is just a thing you do. Like we're Disney people, we're Marvel people, we're Star Wars people, we're Star Trek people. The first fandom that was really important to me was the first fandom I discovered on my own that was completely devoid of my family. And that was the Tori Amos fandom, which, you know, people are like, oh, that's just, you know, that's a musician. But, you know, she's got a pretty crazy fandom when you look into it. And she has an Eisner Award-winning comic book Tattoo, with artists like Jonathan Hickman and David Mack doing pages about her songs. So to even find out that there was such a Tori Amos comic book crossover, because it turns out her best friend is Neil Gaiman and Delirium is based on her. So it's one of those things where you come to find out that you're not alone by virtue of discovering the sort of subsect. And so for me, it was the Tori Amos community where I felt like there's a million people that are also into a screaming redhead and comic books. Oh, home.
Exactly.
I love that home part of it.
Yeah.
See,
Oh, you know, my entire walls are Tori. Like all in front of me is Tori Amos. Yeah, still to this day. It's amazing. It's home.
No. For me, mine was just a little bit different because, and I kind of wrote it in our notes. I became a Star Wars fan when the movies first came out in 77, 78. And I was that kid who literally took home construction paper, made the blasters, and then took them back to school so that we can destroy them in gym class. And that's how people found out how much of a geek I was. That's how people discovered my fandoms. The teachers realized it as I was sitting there playing with little figures that I would make instead of doing the lessons as well. But
if you're going to speak, just put a finger up so we know, and we'll show you the next one. Because there you go, perfect.
Hey, in my case, I like to. It started with like X-Men and my cousin, and those two things. I think I told someone 2 years ago. I didn't realize, but it kind of saved me. When I was in the 4th grade, I was in the slow reading class, and I had to be separated from the regular kids, and some of us went to this other room where we got supplemental reading attention and training. But what really pushed me beyond that, me and my cousin started reading X-Men comic books and trading comic books, and so that forced me to start reading. That was the one thing that piqued my interest in reading. And so once I started reading comics, my reading improved, and thusly I moved out of that class to regular class and kind of excelled after that point.
You were speaking Nicole's language. I think she's ready to jump in right there.
Please talk about why that is super relevant.
Go ahead.
So when we talk about kids finding their abilities, like we always realize that we're good at something in school, and when they label us struggling readers or whatever, I mean, whatever crazy thing they want to call us that year, because in education things swing from branch to branch so quickly. That the one thing that most of us have in common is that we desire and we love something. So we're fans of something, we enjoy something, and that's what we should read about in the perfect world. Well, comics do something for kids that we take away in third grade. So from kindergarten to second grade, we use pictures, and there's picture heavy everything. So we're learning to read. And then in third grade, they take most of that away, and it becomes us reading to learn. And when we read to learn, there's so much that's taken away from those pictures. Like there's no longer, we have textbooks, but there's the pictures go along with what's being read, but not anywhere near in depth that it needs to be. We take away literary sides of things. We're supposed to read this novel and dissect it, but there's no pictures to go along with it. We have to create them ourselves. And most of our kids, once they get to 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, they don't know how to visualize that. And so by filling in the gaps with some sort of visual representation of it, we build better readers. We build kids that have better vocabulary. I mean, we build kids that can look at a facial feature or a facial expression and understand the emotion that goes along with it. And just in a lot of my research in the last couple of years has really lent itself to, we are such a social media information now world, and we still can't react to people. Like we just don't know what it means to smile or what eyebrows do or all of those things. So we're constantly trying to figure out people. But really, if we were reading in comic books, we would already figure those people out. Like we could do it because we have that visual representation to help us. And so that's what I've been trying to promote. And it is starting to get heard. So
and
I'm
you
excited.
Actually use graphic novels and comics in your classroom to teach specific subjects, right?
Yeah. So predominantly I'm a Marvel girl. So where everything started for me was X-Men. And I was searching for something because like the publishing companies do like I just saw the thing for Time. And so they do this whole like books that are turned into graphic novels, and that's great. I'm not gonna dissuade anybody from reading that, but also like our kids want something that's relevant to them. And and the MCU was starting to become really popular, and the X-Men movies were out. So we read God Loves, Man Kills, which is Chris Claremont's X-Men run. And it was a huge way for us to finally bridge the gaps for social injustice and civil rights movement. So like our kids, yes, I have that book. And it opened lots of doorways for our population who was very diverse in the classroom to help understand why, it was similar. And it took away race, and it just put us in this world of human versus mutant instead of black versus white or whatever. It was a safe place. And I don't know if you guys have watched the other panels, but they've been touching on that all day. Is it made it something that wasn't personal. It made it something that we could all understand in a whole different environment. So when doing that, like our kids, I mean, they really focused the instruction. Like we read the book and they talked about the things that they saw. They talked about how it was relevant to what we were experiencing in life and how they felt. And so it was a lot of self-discovery, but it was a lot of learning because we talked about how to read between the panels and how to understand what people were feeling based on their eyebrows, which is a simple thing, but not so simple for kids that are 13 and 14 who haven't really had that connection with people.
And I want to kind of move that into when it comes to, because I love that you were able to use that in a lesson and being able to talk about that with kids and bring in, and them being able to connect their personal reality to what they were seeing and, get some framing around some really complex and challenging topics that, of course, even adults have a problem with, or else would have solved this by now. So it's great that we have that, and then also building connections with each other. It allows for us, and if I really hope that whomever's listening goes back to read to watching some of the other panels, because we talk about so many things around mental health and how these things shape us, how these connections shape us, how these stories shape us. And given that, my lovely Nisha, what are healing hobbies?
Okay, and so why healing hobbies in today's panel of all the ones, right? So building healthy connections and community is about being able to create a sense of self and self purpose, self value, and self awareness from the earliest phase of our existence, and then keeping that healing going your entire existence. Remember, I told you there is no too early, too late, or anything else to be a fan. We span the spectrum of fandom, and I don't care what age we are. Wendell, I'm 55. I have been doing this since I was 3 years of age. I was blessed to have a very difficult growing up life because of my cultural background, but to have a family that was very embracing of me being able to read DC and Marvel and tons of historic documentaries and books about animals and just the things, and they allowed me to perpetuate it and never said no technically to anything,
And that's
which
the idea. That's perfect. Yes.
which while the cultural upbringing was a huge struggle growing up from 3 on in Queens, New York, in Richmond Hill, very difficult, as I'm sure you understand. Having at least those connective forces in my life were extremely important for me to at least have 2 feet under me. Otherwise, I always used to think I was flying or swimming because I didn't know where to connect myself to. I never made sense in anyone's story, and I certainly couldn't figure out what the heck my story was. At some point in my life, I realized I was damn good at reading. I was damn good at writing, and I was a good singer. And at somewhere someone said to me, your voice is beautiful and your writing is poetic. And I started to connect to those things as hobbies, creative outlets that allowed me to be able to almost feel like I was restructuring myself at a cellular level, if that makes any sense to you. Because when you're existing as a child who doesn't, in the foster system, for instance, or a child who's chronically ill or dealing with cancer, or mental abuse and physical abuse in the home, you don't know what your DNA structure is. I swear to gosh, people don't know what it is. They don't know who they are. They truly do not know, because abuse of any kind scrambles every ounce of that, every ounce of it. Right, Ian? Right,
Everyone.
right? Every ounce of it. So think about it as if every single day of your life, someone is taking you and just doing this, because that's what you exist in when you're living in that state. So, as I was creating this journey, as you all know, the emotionality of the journey and the creation of our company was because of my brother's severe mental illness and the loss of his life, to the effects of his mental illness 10 years ago, and creating this organization as a way for me to honor him and also to reduce suicidality and to create a way for people to connect to something that would help them heal and reduce suicidality. And somehow, through the Potter universe, because that's how we all connected, um, and then through my understanding, some light bulb went off. Girl, I don't know. Maybe it was medicine. Not sure what it was. But one day I woke up and I said, well, heck, how did I heal? I lived through abuse. I lived through physical, emotional, and every type that you can think of. I have gone through everything. I've had so much grief and loss. What is it that kept my feet under me? And I realized I had been engaging in hobbies, activities, pastimes, listening to music with groups, doing writing clubs, doing writing workshops. I had been joining a little glee club, right? And those are fandoms. They're just really small, but they're on the hobby perspective and the activity. And I was like, heck, I think I grounded myself because I started to find something that was helping me to heal at the DNA structure level, something that stopped me from being scrambled every day of my life. So I could stop myself from letting someone else take this body, this whole being, and making it about who they were going to scramble me into being. And I started to find a voice for myself through my own structures. And when you do that, right, we spoke this morning about the science and the of psychology and fandom, and we explained to everyone what neuroplasticity is. And Ian can tap in. But when we retrain our brain, we will genetically, to the DNA level, be able to affect positive changes in how our body views itself, how the mind functions, how the nervous system and the brain will start to change to accommodate for positivity versus always being attached to the negative. And then we start to smile instead of frowning, even though, damn it, frowning is way harder than smiling. Okay?
Takes more muscles.
But we learned to frown. Healing hobbies and engaging in those, whether it's making that pillow behind you, Wendell, or making the shirt you have on, because you made me happy when I saw Mets, okay? Those things create a state of healing, which people cannot three-dimensionally visualize as healing at the cellular and the neurovascular level. That is what healing hobbies are. Fandoms are those spaces and those places and those platforms that allow us to actively engage in communities and in a vaster space of healing. So you have the smaller ones, but in the long run, they are all healing hobbies. Does that help you? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. And I really wish we had more time to dive deep. There was so many avenues we could have gone down, but it is time for us to say goodbye. Can everyone go around and just their socials and how they can find you? Starting with Jarvis.
Oh, you can find me all over the place. I'm jarvissheffield.com or just Jarvis Sheffield on any of the social medias from Twitter to Instagram.
Thank you. Ian?
Just Instagram, I_Douglas.
Awesome. Nico?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Nico Action. That's NICOACTION, as well as with X's for Podcast at X's for Podcast on Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, Twitter, and Facebook.
Awesome. Kelly?
I just have our Tracks Facebook group. So just look for DragonCon, American Science Fiction Fantasy Media.
Awesome. Nicole?
So you can find me on Facebook, Nicole Jobin, and Comics in the Classroom FL. That's our page, as well as every Saturday on the Reels and Heels podcast, part of the HWWS web TV shows.
Great. I've been putting everyone's logos up.
Wendell?
Thank you.
Okay, since the HBCUCon logo is up, you can find me at hbcucon.org. You can also find me at ScorpKing_costuming or ScorpKing.costuming on Facebook and IG. You can also find me as Big Smooth on IG. That's BIGSMU. You'll see my costumes, cosplays, all the stuff that I do.
And you can find me on Twitter at Introspectional. So that's spelled like intersectional, but with a P after the S. And so you can find that like that on Twitter and also Introspectional Pod on Instagram.
Okay, my friends, last one. And then thank you so much. We really need to do this at a much longer panel next time. So much to cover. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to pop over. You guys go ahead and exit. We're playing a video. And I'm going to pop over to the next one. Bye, guys.
Thank you all.
Hey guys, just a quick moment to tell you more about what has influenced me to get on this journey of self-care and better myself physically and mentally. Two big things, one of them being from the Fantastic Beasts series, Jacob Kowalski, reminding us that it's not always just the tall, skinny, dark, and handsome stereotypical hero that gets the woman, but even sometimes the short, overweight, balding guy does too. So that was a very good reminder. And one of the reasons why I do Jacob a lot is because of that and the heartfelt love and the genuine, real love between him and Queenie. The other one that really kind of like lit a fire under my ass, or maybe I should say a lightning, is Thor. Thor's arc, especially in Endgame, where for the entirety of the MCU, he literally had the body of a god and chiseled and whatnot. And then he lets himself go. But the lesson is just because he let himself go doesn't mean that he's not worthy anymore. Just because you're going through something, just because you don't have that mental aspect or that physical look that people have gotten to know, doesn't mean that you are not worthy anymore. And that definitely has started me on my hashtag You Are Worthy on Instagram, which has started at New York Comic Con and will be picking up again pretty soon back at MegaCon and any other con that I go to, because it doesn't matter what you're going through. It doesn't matter what mental state you're in. You're always going to be worthy. You're always going to have that power inside of you to keep you going, to bring you, rise you up. And Diversely Geek has always been there when I needed to reach out and just maybe even just talk. There was like 5 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour. There was always somebody there that's like, I will listen to your story. I will listen to what you're going through. I will give you as much advice as I possibly can. And a reminder that, and I always tell this to my friends, we would much rather listen to your story from you than listen about your story from someone else, because you're not there to tell it. So remember that. You're worthy. You always will be. Reach out. Don't give up. You may get 100 no's, but at 101st, maybe the one person that is there and will change your life. So, I love you all. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the rest of your day.